This is one of the biggest issues in Christianity. Go to any small group, go to any Bible study, talk to any individual believer in their life, and I guarantee you quite quickly you will hear confusion around if that was really God, was it the devil, or was it just their mind? The very fact that our communication chamber with God, our brain, can be hacked by the enemy so easily, and also is where your natural psychology occurs, makes it maybe the worst, most unreliable communication method ever. Again, comparing it with anyone in your life. Yeah, someone might have taken your friend's phone, but you can find that out. And most of the time, when you see it's their name come through in your contacts, you can know who you're speaking to. And if you're ever in doubt, you can get on a Skype call, or you can meet them in real life. There are 1,000 ways to troubleshoot. Wait a second, that doesn't seem like my friend. I wonder if something's going on. But you can't do that with God. All you can do is ask God again, and you're back to predicament 1. You understand that when you think you're hearing from God, it's going through the same channels and processes as any other feeling you've ever had. And even the Bible says that the heart is deceitful amongst all things. Surely you have felt things that weren't true before. Have you ever been afraid when you shouldn't have been? Did you ever feel sad and you couldn't quite place your finger on it? Did you ever get a moment of euphoria and it was wonderful, but you had nothing to assign it to? Here's just a quick list of hormones and how they operate in your body. This is what we know from science. Then you take all of the individualistic experiences we can have in our life and how they trigger so many different things in us, and we are a mess at being able to properly identify this wealth of information that is constantly going on inside our heads. But again, going back to God's responses that come in the way of gut feelings / intuition, or Bible verses, or coincidences, is that really real communication? If someone told you their spouse only spoke to them in riddles, and sometimes, most of the time, straight up ignored them, and that there would be major consequences for not deciphering the riddles correctly, and that they could never see them, or their actual handwriting, or an actual text message, or their actual voice, that the spouse would speak to them in their spirit, would that sound healthy to you? Of course not. We could talk this entire video about communication, but let's move on to another aspect of having a real personal relationship with someone. Quality time, face to face. Many relationships, friendships, family ties end or degrade over time because of what? A lack of actual togetherness. Time spent in each other's presence, side by side, eating together, laughing together, talking together, crying together. Now, you might say you do all those things with your God, but it's just you in a room, isn't it? It takes your faith to believe that he's there, that he cares, that he hears you, or that he responds. And yet, if God is omnipresent, why is there never an actual sit-down moment? Or worse, many Christians will have no problem believing someone's testimony that God actually showed up in the room with them. So he's capable of it. You know this, but has he done it for you? If not, why not? If this God can show up, will show up, has showed up, but won't show up ever one time in real life to you physically, how do you excuse that? Why are you okay with that? Why was it good for the other person? Why did he choose to do that for them? The inconsistency of God's relationship here is bad, and maybe that's the problem in being in a personal relationship with someone who is supposedly in a few billion other personal relationships. Maybe he just doesn't have time for you. But you don't believe that. You believe God is paying every second of attention to you and to everyone else, that he knows every thought and action you have ever done and ever will do, and that he is literally everywhere at the same time. This is the Christian belief. So again, no excuses for why this God won't sit down in a room with you too. But you make some for him, don't you? You have to, or you couldn't maintain your faith. Maybe this is something I'm wanting to show you through this video, is all the work you're doing for this God, which my conclusion here at the end is you're doing 100% of it. He's not real. He doesn't exist. And this whole thing is created by you. It's a terrifying thought and reality. And yeah, you'll claim that you feel his presence, but people feel things all the time. We talked about that before. Does feeling something make it real? I have felt a million things that were not real. Why can't God just be another one of those? If your best friend only ever felt near, never was actually near, never actually showed up, would you consider that a good relationship? But let's move on to our third part of a good, healthy, real, personal relationship, and that is going to be conflict resolution. If you have an issue with a friend or partner or whatever example you're thinking of throughout this whole thing, you can express your frustration and get a response. If a Christian gets angry at God, does God ever apologize? No, he's perfect. He has no need to. What about for not showing up like he did for your neighbor? Well, it was different. My neighbor must have needed that, or God's testing me, or God has a different plan for me, a different path for me. Excuse, gaslighting yourself into an abusive relationship. Worse, if you ever think you have an issue with God, you are told you're the problem. Now we're victim blaming. It must be something you did. You must not be good enough. You must not be sincere enough. You must not be trying hard enough. You must have too much sin. So many barriers for this perfect, all-powerful God who wants a relationship with you. Seems awfully man-made to me. If you had friends who never took responsibility for miscommunication, we'll say that at best, even though it's clear that God will purposely lie to you, deceive you, let you be lied to or deceived, if you like that verbiage better, ignore you or use you as collateral damage. I mean, come on. But again, best case scenario, it's all a misunderstanding. If you had friends that never took responsibility or even claimed awareness of this miscommunication, misunderstanding, and always made it your problem and made you feel guilty, would that be a relationship worth keeping? I don't think so. We'll go a little bit quicker through some of these other ones here. What about reliability? Very important in a good personal relationship. But God is the greatest no-show friend of all time. Real relationships require and involve consistency. If I only came home once or twice a week with no excuses and never told my wife the schedule, never told her where I was when I wasn't with her, most of the time didn't answer her calls, how long do you think we would stay married? How good and useful would that relationship be? And yet, Christians who say God is always there can't prove it. They often complain to other Christians about how they don't feel him there. They feel abandoned. They don't understand where God is or why he won't reply, what his plan is, why they're so in the dark, why they're trying so hard and not hearing anything back. And it's so simple. I mean, if a parent ignored their child's cries for help and CPS shows up at the door after this child has been hungry and unbathed and thirsty, and the parent's excuse was, I was always there in spirit, how well would that work? It wouldn't at all. And yet this is the excuse you give yourself for your God. Even if you think he's providing for you, 4 children have died from hunger since I started this paragraph. Statistically, 2 to 3 of them had parents that would have been crying out to this Abrahamic God. He listened, they suffered, they died. They have no answer. They have no consistency. They have no physical presence. They just have excuses. Ones they better make, or else they're the problem. They don't trust their God. They don't believe in his goodness. They don't believe in his love. Now, not only have they lost a child, but they need to fear for their eternal soul because of what happens, because of the thoughts they're having about this God. And along with this, we could talk about empathy. Christians claim that God comforts them, but how does he comfort them? It's usually through other people, through what they're reading, through friends or family or therapists or doctors. Amazing. If you complain to God about your anxiety, something he says not to have, not an acknowledgement that it will happen, just do not be anxious about anything. If you're someone dealing with depression or fear, again, he says, I did not give you a spirit of fear, but that of a sound mind. Well, what's he going to do about it then? He just said these things aren't real and they're not his problem. And yet when you go to therapy and you work very hard to understand trauma and the root of it and work for years to address it and finally heal in some regards sometimes, you'll thank God for that. No one sees a problem with this? That's just one example. You know what else all relationships need? Boundaries. Boundaries are good. Boundaries are beneficial. They're there to protect the relationship. They involve and require mutual respect. But God doesn't have boundaries. God demands praise and worship, love and obedience. If a human did this, we'd call this emotional abuse. And by the way, again, I've mentioned the special pleading. All I hear for the excuses coming from this is, okay, yeah, but you keep comparing it with people, but this is God. It's so different, but why? And by the way, I agree, it should be different. It should be better. It should be the most perfect, amazing relationship you've ever had. It should be one of pure certainty and reliability and amazing forthright communication. The one being in the world you can completely trust, that you do not need to fear. But that is not what we have. It's the exact opposite, and yet you use it as the same excuse. It makes no sense whatsoever. If a friend said, you have free will, but if you ever leave me, I'll make you suffer forever, that's not a good friend. And why does this God need constant validation if he is so perfect, especially when he is willing to almost never give it? But what about honesty, for another point. Does God ever tell you anything new? And I know that this seems silly, and you might say, yeah, God is the source of inspiration for all kinds of epiphanies that mankind has had, and on, but really, if you think about it, is it not something that man was capable and has done on their own? Did God ever just give someone the cure for something, or was it a slow process that we can track the evolution of thought and scientific discovery on? You'll thank God for it, the fact that it exists, whatever it is. Maybe it's the understanding of CPR because it saved your husband's life. God never told anyone about that. We had to understand how the human body worked through investigation. When a person goes missing, God never just gives the coordinates. You'll thank him when the police search finally finds them, or when the search and rescue team gets to them. But again, in a real relationship, sometimes it is your friend telling you something new. Did you know this? Hey, I found your wallet. It's right here, and they hand it to you. You thank God all the time for finding your wallet and your car keys, but he didn't. You did. My point with this one is you are giving God credit for a billion things that he quite literally had nothing to do with. But it's how you keep the role play alive. I know you really believe in this being, and I know you really believe you have a relationship with them. But as someone who does not believe that this God exists, a personal God exists, and sees so clearly how all humans fill the gaps in for this, and people in other religions have done the same thing, which you can also admit. I want to free you of this burden of keeping this imaginary friend alive. Imaginary friends can be helpful. Lonely children are the most likely to create imaginary friends, and it gives them a source of comfort. It gives them an idea of being heard when they are otherwise silenced. It gives them someone who never makes fun of them, even though they are constantly bullied. I do not deny the benefit, but there's a reason that they grow out of it. They mature. They need to deal with reality. I hate to reduce religion in these ways that many atheists will talk about it. It's just Santa Claus for grown-ups. But there's some truth to that idea. So many of us, even as adults, are still so broken, still so empty, still have so many issues, many of which I think can be attributed to believing in something that is untrue their entire life and having to be responsible for that and even threatened with hell because of that. But there's other real traumas that have nothing to do with this God. And when you turn to something that isn't there to solve them, you might band-aid it for a while. But just like that same child who, if they grew to be 75, believing in their imaginary friend the whole time, this is not going to go well for them. Dealing and facing with reality matters. But just pick any example you want. A boyfriend or girlfriend is an easy one. What if your significant other never spoke to you directly, only through old cryptic letters, the Bible? What if they demanded you love them or face punishment? What if they never helped when you needed them most? Other people did, and you attributed it to them because you were so afraid of not believing in them, per the last thing. They let bad things happen to you, if not caused bad things to happen to you, because it was their plan for you. And they had billions of people who also claimed to be in relationship with them, with mutually exclusive and contradicting ideas about who they are and how they act and how they operate. We could take this example forever. What if they never replied to one of your texts? And when you complained to your friends about it, they said, no, well, that's your fault. You must have sent the text wrong. What if they told you they were perfect and literally every single thing that you perceived to be wrong was your fault? What if they were extremely hot and cold, sometimes giving you nice presents, blessing you, sometimes abusing you completely and to the fullest extent, even being able to take your life where you will still say thank you? What if they bragged about their jealousy over you, and even though they never spent personal real time with you, if you ever even considered leaving them for another, again, the threats they would give to you? What if they had no boundaries? They set all the rules, they set all the limits, it was always one-sided, and you had no input in it whatsoever? What if they hurt you, and when you cried, they just said, you don't understand my plan? You weren't allowed to leave them, but every once in a while they'd come around and they'd tell you, you're so special to me. The same thing they're saying to billions of other people. You understand how sick this all is if it weren't God. Somehow when it's God, it becomes beautiful and perfect. Special pleading, insane excuses, cognitive dissonance. That's how you get away with this. That's how this God, this religion, gets away with this. You'll say God works in mysterious ways. You'll say his ways are higher. You'll say he's God, he can do what he wants. As if these things explain away any of those issues I just gave. They're just how you let yourself off the hook for not dealing with reality. You can't criticize my beliefs. They're based on my relationship with God. and yet that relationship is incredibly vague, only available to you because of the source material or the tradition in history, completely subjective to where and when you are born, and indistinguishable from emotions and coincidence. A real personal relationship requires clear communication, mutual care, and tangible interaction, none of which you can have with this God. The idea of this is borrowed from scripture, shaped and reinforced by culture and religion, and contradicted by the existence of other religions. You can believe in your personal experience, you can claim personal relationship, but you cannot do so honestly, as evidence at least, for the proof of your particular God, when the same claims and same form of evidence is used by everyone else who has ever believed in any other God ever. It just fails so hard. But I'm done, I promise. Thank you for being here. I hope sincerely that this was helpful, because I know this is the last barrier for so many people before understanding the reality of their situation. This is something that has to be dealt with, and I hope that this magnitude of questions will assist in some way. I'll see you Tuesday for another takedown, and until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast and Chris, Greysteel, Jimmy, Joe, Kitboga, Lori, Matthew, and Perry; my Humanist heroes, Chris, James, Jarrod, and Kristi; my Atheist advocates, Aquitar, Caleb, Dakota, Dan, Jeff, Jeffrey, Jugs, Julie, Melissa, Paul, Rege, Sparky, and Thomas; as well as all of my secular scholar patrons and new Mindshifter members. Thank you so much for your support. It means more than you can ever know.